Non-binary elephant
podcast.
Welcome to the Non-Binary Elephant podcast, sponsored by Miles Franklin, protecting your family's financial future from corporate greed and government corruption. The web address, as always, is at the bottom in the description. We're joined today by Richard Willett, who is a documentary filmmaker. We've had him on before. We had a wonderful chat about a documentary called Plugged In, which was all about social media manipulation and how it's basically toxic for young people. This documentary is slightly different, but it's kind of got a few similarities. It's called Extreme Danger, Extreme Hypnosis. It's a feature-length documentary directed by Rich and produced by Brick and the Wall Media, which is Rich's media company. It brings to light many ways in which we, the public, are mind-controlled and hypnotized on a daily basis. World-renowned stage hypnotist Jonathan Royle awakens you to the vast mass hypnosis and mind control that many are sleeping under. It's time for the sleepwalking zombies to wake up before it's truly too late. This bit interests me as well because it features Neil Sanders, who wrote the book Your Thoughts Are Not Your Own. There's 2 volumes, and we actually stock that on the shop at davidicke.com, iconic.com. So it's interesting that you got to work with him. Tell us about the film.
Well, basically what we wanted to do, it came about, I've known Jonathan for a couple of years now, we wanted to do something that kind of introduced people to the way you've been hypnotised and manipulated in every area of life without going too in depth in it. So you could watch a film, watch it, and then go away and research everything yourself, because we cover everything from, it starts off in the media industry, it starts off in music, it goes to politics, it goes to medicine, and it goes to what other ones? It goes to the news, it goes to the royal family. It literally jumps across. We shot it over a few days in London, walking around London, and then we shot a load of other stuff to go along with it. And obviously Neil comes in and gives a lot of actually information about how it's done and why it's done, and a lot of the historical context as well. So we wanted to do something you could look at and then go back and go, actually, now when I go out into the world, I can see how I'm being manipulated in these little ways, and they're all very common thread, as you guys know through all the work that you've done. It's not it doesn't just happen from one angle. It's all over the place. We even cover 5G in it. It's very vast. It's an hour and 50 minutes, I think, at the end of the cut. But we wanted people to be able to watch it and go away and then look into the work like your guys' work and your dad's work, and then study in depth. So that's how it came about, really. And Jonathan has been a stage hypnotist for like 30 plus years. And Neil, as you say, writes his books about mind control. So there's a lot of understanding how we're being manipulated from every angle. And we wanted to show that, but how it's played out in different areas of your life.
How did you meet Jonathan then? How did that come about? Did he approach you and say, like, I've got a great idea for a documentary, or was it you that approached him?
It was me. I met Jonathan I worked with Brian Harvey of E17 for a little while on a documentary that never come out, unfortunately. And through that, they had this like kind of overlap with News of the World. Jonathan was set up. Jonathan kind of tried to set up Maz Mahmood many years ago, who was a fake sheikh, and it all backfired a bit. And so they had kind of similar things with Hacked Off and Byline and all of these guys. So through that, I kind of just got chatting to him about 2 years ago, and we wanted to do something. I'm fascinated by stage magic. I just think it's incredible what they can do with sleight of hand. So we wanted to show how that's kind of the sleight of hand's done in every area of your life. So I approached him with the idea, and we started filming it probably about 6 months ago, something like that.
Pretty quick turnaround then, if it's only 6 months. Yeah. Everything we do is quite quick turnaround, because you need to get it out just to be able to kind of, one, it needs to be relevant still, but you just need to get these things done quickly, and they don't need to take forever. I think there's a common misconception about filmmaking is that they do need to take a year. It really depends on the content and the context, the content you have in the film. There's ways of doing it that don't need to take forever. So it's quick turnaround. Yeah, it'll be out in September. Hopefully the first couple of weeks of September. Fab. And they can get it from...
We're going to put it on, hopefully going on Amazon, and it'll be on Vimeo in demand. The only reason is that Amazon actually, there's a film come out, I don't know if you guys have seen it, it's called In the Minds of Men, of the Minds of Men. Really good documentary. It's free on YouTube now, but they put it on Amazon, and it was there for ages, doing really well, and then Amazon rejected it because of the content, saying that, they said that the official thing was that it was to do with the quality. Well, there's nothing wrong with the quality. It's a good documentary. So they stopped selling it. And so we have a funny feeling we might have the same problem with this one because of the content of the film. As you know, they're cracking down on everybody left, right and centre now.
Yeah. I find it funny, though, that Amazon would take something down based on the quality with some of the shite they sell on Amazon.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the point. Yeah, I've seen some really horrific, badly made films on Amazon, and that's the point, yeah.
That's one thing that's really interesting is it ties into people like Amazon and Apple and all those deleting people off their platforms is there's method in the madness, and that from what you said about the film, that's kind of what you're trying to get across, that we're kind of led to believe from the news and so on that everything that happens in the world is random and crazy and there's no logic to it and you can't ever predict things. Whereas in truth, it's all carefully calculated. You know, something happens because they want a specific response from a certain group of people. Things like that. There's certain news stories that want a certain reaction. There's method in the madness. It's not a case of everything is random and illogical. It's carefully calculated over a long, long time ago. So having a film like that shows that is exactly what people need, and I think it'll be something people would probably grasp quite quickly.
Yeah, I think so, Jamie. I think exactly what you said there. It's that even the bringing out of this film, like all the content that you guys put out at davidicke.com, it's the way they react to it is just example of how you're right, how the things that we're saying are right. How things that we're saying are happening, but now they're happening far more, even the last 2 years, out in the open. It's like they don't really care anymore whether you know or not. And this film, it'll be interesting to see the reaction from places like Amazon, places like iTunes. iTunes won't let you even put a film on there unless you've had, I think it's like 3 or 4 films that are BFI, British Film Institute, have kind of looked over and agreed that they're good films. Well, you're stuffed because you're not going to be able to put anything out that they don't agree. And as you guys know, the channels are getting blocked more and more of where you can put your content out. So you have to self-fund. We self-funded everything of this. We self-funded the whole film. And we're a small company. There's only a few of us in the company. And we're trying to keep our head above water. We're a small company trying to make as big a noise as possible through a film like this. So it'll be interesting to see what the response is. But as you say, I think places like Amazon might have a strange reaction to something like this. It'll be interesting.
Something that interests me in terms of this great kind of scam that's going on in terms of the hypnosis. Obviously, it's planned, it's being carried out by various people. Some of them will be aware of it, some of them won't be aware of it. I find it quite interesting with Jonathan, because he is a stage hypnotist. He will be trained completely, I imagine, in all those techniques and of how to do it. So would he then know who's doing it on purpose? Do you know what I mean? And who's not? That would be something that I'd find quite interesting to see. If he can see, say, for instance, a news anchor in America, he'll be able to tell whether someone is simply reading the script or someone is actually quite invested in the scam.
Yeah, I think that's a question Jonathan could probably answer better than I can. But from working with them and knowing them, that the main understanding that Neil also says in the film is that they don't hypnotise you. You can't be hypnotised in the sense of they get you on stage and they make you do something you don't want to do. What they do is they set up they build the world and the opportunities for you to react in that certain way. So they're very, very good at making you act in a certain way, and that's kind of what the film's about. Is about that you're being manipulated to react in a certain way. So he would know clearly that looking at certain anchor, but would be reacting in this way, and to a certain extent we're all doing it. We're all salesmen. We're all trying to get a certain reaction from each other, but it's depending where it's coming from. A lot of everything that we cover in the film is from a nefarious, not a very nice place. They're not doing it for the good of anyone other than themselves. So yeah, he would know straight away who's manipulating him and who's not, and I think that's actually kind of why he's kind of maybe been ostracised in the showbiz industry a little bit as well, because he can see, my language, but bullshit from a mile off, and that's not quite hard to be around when you know it.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, you would be a very vacuous existence, wouldn't it? The showbiz industry, and if you can see the bigger picture, it must be horrible.
I think people that kind of see the bigger picture and say this is what's happening, they don't tend to last that long in the showbiz industry, generally, do they?
Absolutely not. Well, you know, Gareth, from your own experience with the music
Well,
industry.
you get attacked and then forgotten, and it's a bit kind of like that, really. But so fair play to the guy for still having a go. Do you know what I mean? That shows that he's coming from a nice place, from a positive place, where he's seen something and he wants to expose it, and that's fab. In terms of Neil, the author Neil, how did you get in touch with him? Is he connected somehow to Jonathan, or?
No, Neil was another one. I mean, I've been kind of trying to work into this area for a few years now. So Neil, I've reached out to. I do a podcast of my own, Glitching the Code. So I interviewed him about 2 years ago about his books. I just reach out to people and I chat with them. I've known him for about 2 years now. Before I even met yourself, Gareth, and we just kept chatting. And I was like, I really want to work with you. You know exactly what you're talking about. I don't claim to be an expert in any of these fields. I'm a filmmaker, so I put these things together. I'm a person that can put things together I think, fairly well. But I'm not an expert, and I don't need to be. I need to just find people who are. And he is someone that has an in-depth knowledge of how the media, especially industry, but all of these psyops kind of work. So I was just fascinated working with him, and he's a very, very nice man as well. Also, that really helps. But he's not flashy. He doesn't actually push himself as much as I think he would like to. He understands how these things work, and at the moment he's looking into the Heritage Foundation. Cambridge Analytica is his main thing he's looking into at the moment. But he's looked in, his last book was about Charles Manson and the truth behind what happened with Charles Manson, and obviously all connections to the music industry. So it was I reached out to him about 2 years ago. I wanted to work with him. We actually we're talking about doing a film about Cambridge Analytica early next year, if we can get a little bit of funding for it, which will probably entail staying in Cambridge for about a week and filming solidly with him. So we just got on well. We've been chatting. I said, look, I'm making this film with Jonathan. We need someone to come in and give a bit more of meat on the bone. And he said he'd come in, and we just did it. We actually just filmed it over Skype, but it works really well in the context of it. Ideally, if we'd had a budget and a bigger budget, we'd have gone to Manchester, or I think it's in Nottingham, and filmed with them.
Right.
But obviously time constraints and being able to do that is again, as you know, trying to do music yourself, you've only got so much to work with. You're kind of squeezed, and you try and do the best with what you got. So that's what we've done, but it's come out really well. It's a good film, I think.
It's interesting that he's going for Cambridge Analytica, because I think there's a lot more to that, and I think I don't know if you've seen with the Chris Williamson thing recently within the Labour Party. Obviously, it's quite a big thing here because he's a Derby North MP, and obviously we're in Derby, but I think a lot of why they're going for him, obviously Israel is a massive part of it because he's speaking up for Palestine, which is a big no-go for them. But he's also been going massively for Cambridge Analytica, and he has been the whole way through. And I do wonder whether there's connections to that. You know, if trying to shut him up is a little bit to do with that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know much about that, but I think a lot of this is coming out now. It's all coming out of the Tavistock Institute, and Neil would be a great person for you guys to have on and talk about these things, because his knowledge is incredible. If you go on his website and he's connected all these dots for how this has happened through the years and how this the psyop and the information that they're gathering on us, and building a picture of who you are and how to push your buttons. And again, that comes back to the film. It's all about understanding how someone behaves before they behave. So it's controlling the behaviour, and it's not about. They're always a step ahead. They're not, and I say they, and we cover this in the film, who these they are, which I think is a massive thing. It's about knowing what this person's going to do before they do it. And in order to do that, you have to be able to build the world around them, and that's what a hypnotist does. He controls the reaction from you before you even know you're going to do it. So you're 6 or 7 steps ahead before you do it, and that's what the film's about. It's about understanding how far, seeing the signs of how far these people are in front of you, so you don't react the way they want you to react. And that's came like when we look on Twitter, and we all have Twitter arguments. I do all the time. I'm no different from anyone else, but you understand that you're being gaslit into these things. You understand we're not silly people, that we are kind of being drawn into this, and if we spoke to them face to face in the pub, we probably wouldn't have an argument with them.
No, it's
and
true.
we kind of understand that, don't we? We understand that we're all actually being kind of built to kind of hate each other before we even met, which is a bizarre feeling to have, and it gets under your skin. And I think all of this data, sorry, hit my mic. All of this data is going into how can I control this person to do what I want before they even understand. If that makes sense, it's
the Truman Show, basically.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I think it's interesting you say that about the Twitter thing and being gaslit into arguments, because for me, like, I spend a lot of time on there, and I've got to a point now where I think I know when I'm being sort of pushed into a row. But generally, because I'm busy, if I feel like that, I'll just go, do you know what? Forget this, and I just block. Done. I can't, because you'll keep trying to prod me, and then I'll bite, and we'll have a row, and it'll annoy me, and my wife will go, "What's the matter with you?" And I'll go, "Nothing." And she'll go, "You're round with some tosser on Twitter, aren't you?" I'll be like, "Yeah, but you know," and you just think it's just a waste of my time, a waste of my energy. But the other week, bizarrely, a kind of guy sort of started going at me, and I kind of twigged early doors that actually he was a German fella. He was actually probably an all right bloke, and I think he just got the wrong end of the stick of something that I was saying. I was thinking he'd not quite twigged it, and I think he was, and so luckily he kind of just thought probably the same. So he looked at my timeline, saw what I was tweeting about, saw what I was saying, saw what I was a person, thought, yeah, actually I've got the wrong end of the stick then. And so he came back to me, which no one ever does on Twitter, and apologizes, and sent me a screenshot to a bunch of purchases. He bought 3 of my albums. I just went, "Nice one, cheers to meet you." And I was like, "Do you know what? If everyone I argued with on Twitter did that, I'd be a millionaire. It'd be amazing."
Well, exactly. This is the point, and we making in Plugged In, is that this is a conditioning tool. It's not an addictive tool. Addiction is the fallout from the conditioning. So we're conditioned to argue. And I come up with, I asked someone about this earlier. I said, why don't Twitter? There's 2 things with Twitter, but one thing is, why don't they have coloured text to show emotion? So if you're angry, why don't you just put it in red? If you're upset, if you're sad about something, why don't you put it in blue? I mean, it's not hard for them to do if they wanted to make it easier for people to communicate. Just use colours. It's really not hard. They never do that. And also, the length, and it says in Plugged In, the length of a tweet is designed to argue. You argue in short bursts. You have conversations at length. So there are ways they could use Twitter to actually get on with each other. And as I say, I had a bit of a fallout with someone a couple of days ago, and then we rode through it, and then actually in the end, he was being really nice about something I shared about a cancer cure that they've supposedly found. And it was refreshing. But the fact that sticks in your mind, that the one time you didn't have an argument, shows how odd it is.
That is on social media,
yeah.
It's toxic. I find Twitter the worst of them all, because it's the most faceless of them. Facebook and so on, you generally know who you're friends with, who's seeing your stuff, who's commenting on it. Twitter, because it's a free-for-all, you're probably not going to bump into this guy in the pub, so people can say whatever they want to you. And some of the things you see, the replies, and I remember seeing a tweet that Piers Morgan had put up, actually, and he'd put up a comparison. He went Instagram versus Twitter, and he'd put up a picture of himself sat in a business class seat on a flight. I can't remember what the comment was, but it was something like just off on holiday or something. And the first comment on Instagram was, "Have a great time, you work hard." First one on Twitter was, "Hope you fall out the sky." Jesus, imagine saying that to somebody in the pub when they go, "I'm on holiday tomorrow. Yeah, I hope your plane crashes."
Absolutely.
You just wouldn't do it. So
yeah, but like you said, it's faceless. That's the point of it.
There's no accountability to it. There's no accountability to it. You go and say that to somebody in the street, or half the things you see on Facebook or Twitter, you say that to someone in the street, they're going to put you on your ass.
Of course they are.
Yeah.
But it's half the say in the street. You said that in the street, you get arrested for.
Yeah, and the thing is as well, with Twitter, it can be faceless, because with Facebook, if people want to see my stuff, they've got to add me. But if they've got to add me, they've got to have a name, and they've got to have pictures, and they'll have fellow friends. And so you can go, "I don't know that guy, I'll put that on the back burner," or "I know him, I met him at so-and-so's Christmas party 2 years ago, he was all right." And so you kind of have got a bit of control. I mean, there'll be trolls to a certain degree, but you've got pretty much a bit of control about who sees your stuff. But same with Instagram. But with Twitter, if you set because I did it for a while when I was being trolled quite a bit by sort of pro-Israel bunch. I just went, you know what, I can't be asked for this. And I just set my profile to private. And what that means then, no one can see your retweets. So when you're sharing news stories or things that are happening, no one's seeing it. So in the end, there's actually no point having the account. It's just pointless. So then you open it up again. As soon as you open it up again, bang, they're on you, which is obviously by design.
Yeah. I think you hit on a good point there, Jamie. To be honest, I never thought about that. Is that whereas Facebook's more personable, you have bits about your family and your story, and you can go the about, and you can see family stuff, and there's a lot more information. Whereas Twitter is about 3 lines of who you are.
Yep.
It's done on purpose. I've never even thought about that, Jamie, but that is clearly done on purpose. You don't want to know who this person is. You just want to argue about. It's an opinions, isn't it? It's just an opinions board, and and there's another thing. Facts and opinions are getting totally mixed up now, and testimonials and facts are getting mixed up as well. Like what you say becomes a fact now.
It takes away the humanity, though. You know, like you're saying there with the Facebook, because you've got who your uncles and aunties and family is, and here's us on on this holiday and blah blah. So you become a human. You're rich. You're a bloke. You've got a missus. You've got a family. Whereas on Twitter, apart from like you say, a couple of lines of text which aren't going to say anything of any value, then you're kind of dehumanized, aren't you?
You're a username. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
but you're right.
Like the prisons camps, you're a number. You're a username. It's like having it stamped on your wrist, isn't it? It's the same. And we cover a lot of this stuff in the film. But yeah, sorry, Jamie.
Sorry, I was saying it's like Gaz had this experience pretty badly on Twitter. Somebody actually tried to basically really go for your work and everything, didn't he?
Yeah, I had to get a restraining order. Yeah.
On Twitter, you've got that, but then you go on his Facebook, you'll see him dance around like a prat of his daughter in the garden, and it adds a human element to it that you just don't get on Twitter.
That's funny, isn't it? You're right, Jamie, and I think that's quite funny. Gareth, would you? I mean, I'm not supposed to be asking questions, but would you put that on Twitter with your daughter dancing around? Would you? I wouldn't. I thought about putting a picture of me and my missus doing a strawberry picking a couple of days ago on Twitter, and then I thought that's not the place to put it. Is that go with you too?
When Lolo, when she was first born, we kind of, me and my wife sort of made a bit of a thing where we just said we weren't going to post anything anywhere really, and so we set up like a private thing on Facebook called Alora Spam, and we sort of added family to it so they could see what was going on. But after a while, just become no, it didn't last long. No, because she's just so funny, and then because I'm so proud of it. Then I end up sharing it everywhere, and so I don't know. Yeah, originally I was like, nah, this is separate, but now I almost just want to show her off to the world because she's a lunatic.
I think it was about 3 or 4 months after Laura was born, I went in for a meeting at our accountants, and Gareth's got the same accountant, and he went, I followed your brother on Instagram yesterday. I've seen more of his kid than I've seen of mine in the last 24 hours. I'm gonna have to have a little unfollow.
Mate, my Instagram, that's all my Instagram is now. That's all I do. It used to be like I was thinking about when was the last time I put up something that I was doing, that I was doing, and it was ages ago. And then it's funny actually going back to you, Rich, like when we did the Plugged In documentary conversation, when we had a conversation about claiming I did the documentary, when we had a chat about the documentary, and you guys were explaining how the amount of likes that you get on certain things, that conditions what you do. So if you're a woman and you an attractive woman, say, and you put up a photo of a beautiful landscape in the Highlands of Scotland because you're up trekking, that'll get 20 likes. You put up a picture of yourself doing a selfie and pouting, you'll probably get 200 likes. So because we want to be loved and liked, she's more likely then to put up a picture of herself doing a selfie rather than a picture of a beautiful scene in Strathpeffer or whatever. But I'm the other way around. So if I put a picture up of myself doing something, I might get 12 likes. If I put a picture up of Alora, I'm like 90 odd. So subconsciously, I think I'm just like, yeah, just put her out there.
And isn't it funny though that us three guys, we know this is happening, but we still do it, and that's the power of this technology. is amazing. And we all grew up. I mean, I think we're about the same age. Me and yourself, Gareth, at least. And I
Yeah,
remember.
don't pull me.
I was going to say.
I was
Yeah,
going to say.
You're having a laugh. He's 11 years older than me.
Is he? He's 11 years older than you.
don't look at though, do I?
Jesus. Well.
He's got a great beard.
I've got a great beard. She said.
Great beard. But it's a fun. Although we know this, and we were born in a world where this technology didn't exist, we still do it, and I still do it on a daily basis. And it's become the point now where you don't really exist in the world; you exist in the computer now. I mean, this is all plugged in stuff, and we do cover this in Extreme Hypnosis. We do a whole section on 5G with a guy called Dr. Robin Kelly. Now, he's a great guy. He wrote a couple of books called The Human Hologram, The Human Antenna. He's a really nice guy. From Australia, and he's trying to lobby against 5G. I mean, he's 44 years he's been a practicing medical professional. But if I put something up by him, I still get people argue who work at EE in the phone call centre that they're right, and he's not. He's a biochemist. I mean, it's absolutely ludicrous that they won't look at him and listen to his. You used to listen to people that knew stuff about stuff, didn't you? No longer. Yeah. You no longer need to. You think, no, there is I'm right, and there's this other thing, there's cognitive dissonance between your truth and my truth. That's dangerous, that's frightening.
Completely, and all the EE lot would have had probably a couple of months ago, an email circular would have gone around all of the call centres saying, look, you're probably going to hear some nonsense about 5G and it's not true and blah, blah. And they've probably just regurgitated that back at you without doing... It is weird, though, how people try and protect their employer. When their employer, certainly of a level of EE or 3 or any of them, couldn't give a toss about someone in a call centre on minimum wage, they replace them in 20 seconds. They're not bothered. But it is weird, isn't it? It's almost like that Stockholm syndrome where they will protect. It's odd. I found that a bit when I worked at Virgin, when Virgin sold out to Nuffield Health, so a gym group in England for people listening that aren't from England. And I knew that there was a scam in the new contracts that were being offered. And I was saying, this is nonsense, blah, blah. And so many people that worked alongside me were just sort of firing daggers at me across the room, like, shush. And I said, no, hang on, I'm being screwed here. Why are you protecting them? They're stitching you. And as it happened, it worked out that I think we were expected to do 280 hours extra a year for $6,000 a year less. No, you're right, mate. I quit. 3 others quit. The rest of them, 20 or 30 odd, were all still there. And that was the same, I think, is probably the E lot, that they would just fight to protect. When actually, no, this guy's a biochemist. Listen to him.
Yeah.
He's not saying he's actually got nothing financial invested in 5G, whereas the people that are telling you it's fine are going to make billions, multiple billions off it. Yeah, exactly. We're a weird breed, aren't we?
What angers me more than even the people pushing this stuff that know what they're doing is people that advertise it. So you've got EE, obviously their face is Kevin Bacon, and you see all these adverts now with him talking about 5G, it's coming, it's going to be this fastest network, and you know the only conversation between him and them has been how much?
Of course it
Not
Of course, absolutely.
What am I pushing? Is it right? Is it something that's safe? Is it something that's going to be dangerous? No, it's how much you're paying me. Great, there you go. It's just that is lower, I think, for me, in my opinion, than the people deliberately trying to push that, because they couldn't do it without people like him.
Absolutely, and that's the nature of Hollywood that he's in. I mean, he wouldn't be where he was if he didn't act that way, and that's
morals, isn't it?
Yeah, it's horrific. You think that we're firing millimetre waves. Some people don't even know it's millimetre waves. They still think it's microwaves through our testicles and through our bloody eyeballs, and it's not going to hurt us. Of course it bloody is. Of course it doesn't take a logical understanding to... I'm not an expert in this at all, but I understand that if you put millimetre waves through your body, it is not going to do you any good. And their only thing is, it doesn't penetrate the skin. The skin is an organ. It's the biggest organ. And they go, well, it doesn't get to your organs. It does. It gets to the biggest organ.
The biggest one. Yeah. Oh, it's okay. Don't worry. It's just a melanoma.
Yeah, don't worry about that. Your liver's fine. Your liver's fine.
That's a relief.
Absolutely fine. It's bizarre, and it does frighten me. I mean, I want to have children, and I worry what they're going to grow up in, because I think, as you say, we're at a really weird time at the moment. Really, it's almost like this really weird film we're in. All of these things happening. But there is a subsection of the world that we want to get to with the film Extreme Hypnosis, because they don't understand any of this stuff. And I think we've had the same conversation, Gareth, is that because we look at this stuff day in and day out, we know a lot. We assume that everybody else knows a bit, but some people are so clueless about any of it. So this film is kind of like a film that you'd watch, and then you'd go and study your dad's work. You'd go and study Neil's work. You'd go and study the work of like Mark Devlin, who's looked into the music industry. You would go and look at these researchers then, but you need a doorway, sort of something that isn't too heavy, that shows you all of these different things. So you start looking at the world, going, "Hang on a minute, they're taking the piss out of me. How's that happening? How's that?" And this is what the film's about. It's not about giving you so much information that you take it all in. What it is about is just waking you up. The whole film is about waking you up out of this. So it's a film for people that don't really know much about conspiracy theories, in a sense, because there's some incredibly knowledgeable people out there that are far more knowledgeable than me. I'm just quite good at seeing, I think, the big picture and how it all works in different areas. But you guys all know far more than I know about most of this stuff, because the work you do day in and day out. But I want people to come and look at your work, and to do so, sometimes they just need a little bit of a push through the door. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you're basically the guy stood in Sainsbury's giving out vol au vents on a tray.
Absolutely.
I actually like that as an idea, though. The fact that you are sort of just an introduction, because, like saying, most people. Say that again, Jay. Sorry, mate.
So I think covering a range of subjects is important as well, because so many people's attitude is they don't care unless it matters to them.
Absolutely. I think that's why 5G will be massive, because wars in the Middle East, various things like that. Yeah, it's bad, isn't it? But I'm all right in my house in Devon. And obviously, when you're talking about 5G and when you're talking about paedophilia, these people have got kids, and so hang on a minute, So I think you'll find that those particular things are good subjects to hit people with straight away.
I mean, we cross the board.
Relate to it.
We get politics. I think we do news. We do the royal family. We do policing, which is a big part of it. Politics, most people still think that they have a choice, which is still bizarre to me. That you think that there is a choice. The illusion of choice is a big thing in the whole thing, and words like illusion used a lot in the film, obviously pertaining to hypnosis. We do psychology in Tavistock, the Tavistock Institute, the Heritage Foundation is covered in there as well. What else do? We go into the music industry, which, Gareth, you're in there a bit in that one. We go into the film industry and how they use films to promote military in a lot of these action films, and how they have to actually they get their scripts are checked by the military if they want to use any equipment in the films. We go into medicine, cures that have been withheld back, and how it's a profit-making thing, big pharma, all this stuff. And it's all it is a real a marathon of a film for an hour and 40 minutes, hour and 50 minutes max. We're still editing at the moment, and we're trying to make sense of all these things, but you get an understanding that actually the same techniques are used in every area. That's the point. They're a different area of your life, but the actual manipulation techniques are the same. They're all to do with hypnosis, and they're all to do with behavioural control, conditioning. They're all conditioning, and it's the same set of techniques they use. They all make you scared. They all make you feel like you don't know where you're going and what you're doing. It's fight, flight, freeze. You end up in the theta position, which is when you're stuck, and you're very open to suggestions because you don't know where to go. So you don't know where to run. You can't fight anymore because you've got no energy left. You're knackered. So you just freeze, and all the information goes in. Every single area of that is what happens to you, and that's the same as what happens to you when you're being abused in an abusive relationship. It's the same as what happens to you when you're being held in a prison camp. It's the same thing over and over again. You're abused to the point where you'll accept anything because you don't know what's up, down, left, right. Look at Brexit. I mean, it's a joke. Of course it is. It's meant to be a joke. It's supposed to be confusing. We're not supposed to know what's going on until they come in and give us the solution that they always wanted to give you anyway, because you'll accept it because you're just bored of it, or you're tired, or you don't understand. I mean, you guys know that from your dad's work. That's exactly how it happens. They abuse you till you accept what they want to give you as the best option.
Yeah, well, fear is what controls most people's lives. Most people would be controlled by fear, whether it be personal life, work life, the way you act, your friendship, all of it. It's, you know, you might want to do something, but I'd be too scared of what people would think if I did that. Or
yeah, how do I pay the bills?
Yeah, most
Scared
people.
money, it's a big one for everyone, I think.
But I think that's what, on the positive side of that, is that's why I think a lot of people are looking to alternative information, because I think a lot of people look at the world now with fear and think, what the hell is going on? You know, if this carries on like this for another few years, where the hell are we going to end up? And I think there's different aspects of the world that's scaring a lot of people. A lot of people that I've chatted to recently, the increase in technology and virtual reality and stuff like that, that scares the hell out of them, because it's what's that going to be in a few years? You know, I mean, it's already taken a shed load of jobs. You go into a supermarket now, there's more virtual tills than there's real people.
Yeah, with some poor bugger on minimum wage running around trying to solve all the problems on the virtual tills, so it just takes forever, and everyone's shouting at them. Yeah,
I literally had that about 2 hours ago. Exactly the same scenario.
It's mental, isn't it? Every time I use the virtual tills, because they seem to have the smallest queue, and Gemma says to me, my wife says to me every time, I don't know why you've done that. I don't know why you do that, because something will always go wrong, and I'll end up losing my rag and having to call someone over, and they're just a disaster.
It's different when you guys lose your rag because you're 6 foot odd, but when I do it, it's ridiculous. It looks like a child that's trying to steal out of the pick and mix section, which I do from time to time. To be fair,
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't?
You got to have a try.
Just eat the evidence.
That's what we were talking about. This is absolutely nothing to do with the film. My friend used to do that. He used to eat the food on the way around and pay for the packet. That's bizarre.
I do that all the time.
Do you still do that?
I still do that, yeah. Because if I'm hungry, this is my reasoning. The worst time to shop is hungry. So if you go and do a food shop for a week, but you're Hank Marvin when you're doing it, you'll end up buying a load of crap that you don't need, and the shop will be like twice as much. So I will grab a sandwich and start munching that on the way round, and then I'll pay for the empty wrapper at the end, safe in the knowledge that I've saved a lot of money on the shop because I wasn't hungry, because I've just fed myself.
What I love about that is that the fact that you guys work like with your dad's work day in, day out, and all these big world problems, but you still, that's a little, you've managed to work that little bit out as well.
Got to look after the pennies, mate.
I accidentally, and I emphasise the word accidentally, stole a massive Christmas selection box of Fox's biscuits from a virtual till once by accident.
How was that an accident?
Yeah, well, exactly. It was an accident, Your Honour.
You know, you put your shopping on one side, you scan it, then you put it in your bag on the other side. Anyway, basically, the area you put your shopping in your basket isn't that big, is it? So obviously, this big tin, I didn't have in my basket. I put it on the till next to me.
Right.
Pretty quiet. I scanned all my shopping, and then my girlfriend at the time, I paid for my shopping. My girlfriend at the time had walked off with the Foxes thing, thinking I'd paid for it. So we got out of the shop, and I looked, and I only clocked when we got out of the shop that she was holding it, and went, I don't think I've paid for them. She was like, well, we're going back in now. I went, no, we're not. Of course we fucking not. She walked out.
How comes the alarm didn't go off?
I don't know. Well, if they're alarming little, like a £5, that's the worst thing I've ever done. That's actually quite a claim to fame at 26.
That's amazing.
£5 Foxes tray from, I think it was Asda, is the worst thing I've ever done.
If anyone from Asda's listening.
Exactly. They'll pull you up on that, though. That'll be in the paper. That'll be like Jamie Icke stole these Foxes thing.
CCTV from about 2015, I think it was, 2014 probably.
Of all the things to steal, though, yeah. I vaguely remember this from my childhood, we are distantly related to the Foxes. I remember that when we were a kid, it was like a family thing that we were distantly related to Fox's Glacier Mints, the people that made Fox's Glacier Mints, which I'm sure is the same Foxes, the same company as Fox's Biscuits, innit?
I'd assume so. There's probably Samantha Fox is the only Fox I know.
I'm sure I'm not sure Samantha Fox is involved.
She's got a finger on every pie.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm just thinking of Jammy Dodgers now. Yeah. But yeah, we're sort of distantly related to them. So technically, if you could steal from anyone, you've stole from family. I suppose that's not as bad, is it?
That's worse, isn't it?
I'm not sure that works that way, does it?
Does it not?
No.
What's stealing from family is worse. Would you be more annoyed if Rich stole something from you or I did?
The reason I was thinking it was different was that actually we are distantly related to them, but we never made any money out of their multi-billion or multi-million pound company. So them tossing us a £5 box of biscuits is sort of all right, isn't it?
A bit like Robin Hood-ish.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't know why I'm sticking up for you, to be fair. You're a thief, and that's that. But
I once stole a coat from a club when I was drunk, put it on. It was a guy who was huge, so it was a big coat. I walked into the pub across the road, was pretty drunk, couldn't remember where I left it. I got done for stealing it. So I didn't steal it, I just moved it.
right, but the person that actually then took it and probably now owns it got away scot-free.
Absolutely. So I was kind of middleman, but yeah, I got told off for that. That was embarrassing. That's my probably worst one. I don't know how we got onto this. This is nothing.
No, I don't know either. But going back to it, then
Self-service checkouts. That's how we got into it.
yeah,
That's
how
it.
we
Yeah.
got to it.
They help you steal. They genuinely do.
Going back then, see, I know you said earlier, Rich, you're like, I just make the documentaries. I'm not qualified to say this and that. But because you make all these documentaries, and obviously with your podcast and stuff as well, you're interviewing so many different people. I think you probably have a real rounded knowledge of everything. Where do you see it, on just off the top of your head? Where do you see it going? Where do you see it ending?
I think there's kind of two things. I think, and we covered this in the film. I think there's clearly an agenda. Clearly going to end up in controlled power, all in one spot of a few companies. I think that's where it will end if people don't get in the way. I don't think it's as. I think there's a few camps within their fighting within themselves. I don't think they're as disciplined to work together. So I think they're a bunch of spoiled brats.
Yeah.
I think there's that option that will just implode because they're all so selfish. I think it will end. I hope it won't end in that. But I think I don't know if it's. I wouldn't say it's too late, but I think it might be damage limitation from now on if people react like they do on Twitter to the most strangest things. So I think it will end up. I hope it won't end up in that. I hope people listen to the work like your dad's work. It's becoming more acceptable to listen to these things. But what a fight it's been to just say I watch David Icke's videos. What a fight it's been to say JFK got shot. Clearly, well, not shot. We all know he got shot, but didn't get shot by the person we thought it was. What a fight it's been, and how powerful that term conspiracy theorist has been, and it's that has done a credible amount. Has slowed down the process of people being cognitively analytical and understanding that these things don't make sense. None of these things make sense. So I hope people wake up quicker. I don't know where it's going. I think the only solution is to go back to. My dad was a greengrocer when we were kids, so we had little shops, greengrocers, we had a post office, we had butchers. I think we need to go back to small communities, break it all down again. I hope that's what happens. I would like to see that happen. I think people need a trade. Like, people are doing jobs like social media expert. Sorry, but that's not a job. To me, that's not a job. That's kind of like a middleman thing. Advising. There's more jobs people advise. I could give you advice, and do you know what I mean? They're not making anything. People need to learn to make stuff, physically make things in the world again. And I hope
Like
we go back to that.
basically.
Sorry?
Like football agents, basically, who bring nothing to the table.
Absolutely, they don't bring anything
millions
to the
and
table.
millions and millions out of the game of football. Yeah,
But they're very good at convincing you need them, and they'll scare you into buying something. It's used car salesmen over and over again. So I hope that people wake up to this understanding of how they're being manipulated, and this is what I want the film to do. How are you being abused? How is this person abusing you? How is this person taking advantage of you? Because once people start to wake up to that, it will stop. It will have to stop, because people won't react no longer in the way. And it is starting to happen. People are starting to really quickly, I think in the last 2 or 3 years, understand that they're being taken the piss out of. Massively.
Yeah.
Massively.
I think what's causing a lot of it is that things are getting undeniably bad on so many levels. And it's kind of difficult, really, because sometimes, I mean, I'm not talking about bombs going off and stuff like that, but sometimes really bad things happen. And I see it in the media and I think, oh, here we... But then actually, is that a bad thing in the long run? Because that's going to wake up that many people who can no longer deny that this is a total scam. Brexit being one of them. You know, over half the country is now going, well, politics is bollocks, because they voted to leave and they're not going to. So as much as I'm annoyed that we won't leave the EU, because I still don't believe we will leave the EU, as much as I'm annoyed by that, by seeing a positivity in it. It's like, okay, well, if we don't leave, you've just basically got over half the nation going, this is bollocks. Right, so now how can we wake up the other half? And so I do think it's probably going to get a lot worse before it gets better, because that's what it's going to take to kind of wake the sort of I'm all right Jack up. You know, maybe it's going to take 5G coming in and cancer rates going through the roof and poor innocent children dying, which is what will happen with 5G, because as we mentioned earlier, what the very nature of what it is. Whether that is then going to be the catalyst to have people turn on the system, I don't know. Because if that doesn't wake them up, nothing will.
No. But then on the flip side of that, 5G is more suppressive, which will dumb people down and have the opposite effect of that.
Yeah, I think you're right, Jamie, and I think two really important points there. It's just we're at a real crossroads now. Once that comes in, it's a whole different ball game now. That things that how do you know that what you're thinking is what you're thinking, or what you are thinking, what you are genuinely feeling, if it's been put into you? And this is the point, it's all manipulation. They're pushing your buttons, and you become part of the Internet of Things. You will be part of the Internet of Things. When I tried for ages not to have a chip, you know, the touch chip in my card, my bank card. Didn't want it, so I don't want it. So if I can't be bothered to remember 4 numbers, I really shouldn't be able to leave the house. Like, do you know what I mean? If I can't remember 4 numbers for my own security and safety, what am I doing in the world? But people are like, no, it's easier, it's quicker. Quicker to what? 4 numbers. Before I can't say that quicker than I can put 4 numbers in. So I didn't understand it. But then the bank actually just gave me a new card with it in anyway. And I'm like, cheers for that. So eventually that's what it will happen. It's done without your consent, or they'll manufacture consent. Which you guys understand about, is you're manufacturing consent by people thinking it's for the best for them. But it's only the best for them given the circumstances you put them in. I mean, if you... it's ridiculous. If you set the plane on fire, the best chance I've got of surviving is I jump out. I'll jump out then. It's probably not a good chance I'm going to survive, but I'm not going to... It's got a better chance of burning in the plane. I'll just wait till it gets to lower to the floor. I mean, it's you've given me a shit circumstance to live in. I'll choose a shit option to get out of it. Yeah, so that's what's happening. There are options. AIDS or
cancer?
Yeah, this is it. Yeah, do you want AIDS or cancer? Well, I don't really know at the moment. Depends on the cancer. It depends on the... Do you know what I mean? I'd rather neither. No, you got to have them. One of the other. Oh, okay. Good. All right. AIDS. I'll do. Because it's quicker to spell. I mean, it's just ridiculous, and that's basically the options that you're giving people.
Yeah. But that was what Trump and Hillary was. That's what all these things are. Like you said earlier, the illusion of choice. You know, do you want AIDS or cancer? Well, I can't believe you voted for AIDS. What's the fucking matter?
You've given me 2 choices. Yeah. We've got 2 choices. We've got Jeremy Hunt and Boris Johnson out of the whole of the UK. That's bizarre. That's like the England football team being full of...
We don't have that though, do we? That's the thing. The Tory members have that. The country doesn't even have that.
No. Do you want an arse-faced weasel or a weasel-faced arse? Oof. I don't know.
I don't know. Arse-faced weasel. But it really don't matter, because they'll all speak the same language and they'll all do exactly as they're told.
Yeah, and when the same masters, of course they have.
Of course they have. And this is what we do cover in the film briefly. There's who is they. And there's 2 cognitive things that really, really frustrate me. Is the they will control us. Well, if you don't know who the they are, then that's just like Superman is hitting you. It's like, and all this thing, society's fault. And I never understood that. Saying, well, no, it's just society, innit? But we are society.
Yeah, exactly.
We are. You can't separate yourself from society. You are part of it. So your input is part of the problem. It doesn't make sense to separate yourself from something just because you don't agree with the way it's going. So if you're saying these they, we need to figure out, we know pretty much who these they are up to a certain point. I'm sure there's ones we've never even heard of. But also, who is this understanding that you can't say it's society's fault because you are part of society? Stop shifting the blame and start taking responsibility for the fact that, and I need to do the same thing, that I'm on Twitter having a go at people because I don't agree with something. I need to start acting as if the way I would like other people to act. It's the only way to do it. It's absolutely the only way to do it, is to be the change you want in the world. It's very simple. And we've got, as your dad says, we've got the numbers. We've got the numbers. It doesn't have to be like this. And that's the problem in extreme hypnosis we're saying, is that you're not being hypnotized. You're allowing yourself to be hypnotized. Once you understand it, you no longer need to behave that way. But then it comes the problem, we police each other, which is the other real problem.
Yeah, absolutely we do, yeah.
So it's a film to wake people up to a little bit, and to look at the world a bit different. And having someone like Neil in there has really helped. Jonathan, knowing all the tricks of psychology and how the stage manipulation's done, it's done exactly the same way in the world, just in a different scale. I think it's a hard film to put together because of the amount of content to put in it, and to make it kind of work. So there's a little bit of Jonathan's biography in there, but a very small amount, just so you know who he is. He's a dad. He's got a little girl, 11-year-old girl, that he's immensely proud of, and he doesn't want this world to end up like it may well be in 10 years' time. I mean, how do you guys think this is going? Where do you think we'll be in 10 years' time?
I'm with you on the crossroads. What was that band that did that song? I kind of feel like that at the minute. It was like that one, and then the crossroads.
Yeah, you're thinking of Blazing Squad.
Blazing Squad.
They took that off someone. I can't remember who it was.
I think it's like Blazing Squad at the minute. I think, it depends what avenue people take. I think it's a really, really important couple of years with 5G particularly, and then with Iran, which looks almost imminent, which brings in China and Russia. So you're looking at World War III, coupled in with 5G, coupled in with mandatory vaccinations all over the globe. I mean, we say yes to any of those three things, and it's game over, in it really. So,
I mean, part of me thinks the whole project for the New American Century thing, the catalyzing and catastrophic event, I think it could be that wakes people up. It could take a nuke going off somewhere for people to go, what the fuck, we've got to put an end to this.
It's just how much is left to recover from if a nuke goes off, because the nukes now aren't like the nukes in Hiroshima. They're not even in the same scale.
Oh no, you're talking Hiroshima, you're talking a few hundred. I mean, so I say it sounds very disrespectful. It's not meant to come across like that. But I mean, you're talking a few 100,000 people. You know, there's some of the top nukes now. You destroy New York City in one attack with one bomb. You can't.
Yeah. The bombs they dropped, the atom bombs they dropped in 45 were like fighting in a nightclub compared to what they've got now. So if a nuke went off, then God help us, really.
Maybe not as extreme as that, but I think it will take, because as we said earlier on in the podcast, for most people it takes something that affects them for them to get off their arse and do something about it. And I think it would have to be something quite massive to affect enough people to go, what's going on here?
Yeah, well, you'd have thought that something that affects their children and their children's children, like 5G, would start to wake people up, because it's all very well affecting, like myself, who's nearly 40, and by the time this comes in I'm going to be in my 60s, but how protective are we over our children and our children's children? And people still aren't going, hang on a minute, this ain't good. Our children, that's where your heart and soul, I assume, shifts over when you have children, and that's your mainstay. As long as they're all right, nothing really matters. So I don't really understand why people can't get this.
I think the thing with 5G and things like that is, like I was saying earlier about where my anger lies towards people like Kevin Bacon doing those adverts. My anger towards people or towards the industry is mainly at the media, because the media did its job. This couldn't happen. And I think a lot of the reason people are not worried about 5G is people don't know about it. Because unless you already look in alternative circles, you're not necessarily hearing anything about it. You've just seen an EE advert going, oh, the new Samsung S10's going to have 5G built into it. Brilliant, that's cool, I'll download a film quicker. And that's where most people meet it. They wouldn't then go and think 5G, well, that's just an upgrade of 4G. They wouldn't think, I'll go and do a bit of research about that and then see a few things that might make them think differently. They just take everything at face value.
Yeah, I think that's right. Sorry, Jamie, that you've hit it on the head there. They take things at face value, and that's what this film we really want it to do, is to make people just not take things at face value and go, hang on a minute, how's this been? Just don't feel right. You know, we all feel that way, don't we? We all feel that uncomfortable feeling every day when we wake up and going, something ain't right here. Something's not right. Either we're not supposed to be here, we were left here, or something else is going on here. We all know that we're not quite right. That's why we all want to get drunk. That's why we want to do drugs, because we know that something's not right here. We're disconnected from something. And without getting too spiritual, although there's nothing wrong with that, I do think we're completely disconnected from each other. Completely disconnected. Like, we don't know each other really. Like, me and Gareth have spoke a few times, but I'm like someone who really genuinely wants this all to happen, to work, to make a difference, a good difference. I can't go to the BBC and make a film like this. I can't go to ITV and make a film like this. I can't get the money like that. I have to fund it myself to make a film like this, and hope to God people buy the film and for £4 and keep me funding for the next film. So I can, and that's always going to be that way. I'm never going to make, I don't really care about that. I'm lucky to be sitting here chatting with you and not stuck looking outside Argos window, cleaning their windows. Do you know what I mean? I've done shop jobs, they're horrible. I'm happy with this. So what's going on is that people aren't understanding how disconnected we are from each other, and that's been done on purpose. Is that we don't understand is that we're all are one person, we all are the same person, and we all want, apart from the psychopaths in the world, and there's many, I've dated a few, there is let's put them off the train of thought there. There's there is those psychopaths in the world, but we are all genuinely want the same thing for us and our children's children. So why the hell are we arguing? And that doesn't make sense for us to be hitting each other over the head on Twitter every day, arguing about something while they're stealing the cutlery out the back door. And these they are what you really need to look into, who these they are, because these are the psychopaths that really couldn't give a shit about what you want from the world, or whether this world's here in 20 years' time.
No, that's a wicked place to close it, I think, mate. Like, there's, first of all, actually give us the website of Extreme Danger, Extreme Hypnosis, so we can direct people to that email, to that website. Yeah,
if you go to Extreme Danger, extremehypnosis.com, and just go on there, and there's a little bit where you can just put your name and address in, and we'll send you information on when the film's coming out, some extra bits of footage, and we've got a web series on there as well. So what we've done is taken some of the content, not necessarily from the film, but some of the content wasn't used. We've got different, I think we've got about 8 different episodes out on different areas at the moment where you can just listen to on there. So if you could go on there and just send us your email, as soon as the film comes out, we'll send you the link to buy the film. I think it'll be about £3 or £4 on Amazon, or if they don't want it.
Yeah, if they have it.
Yeah, if they have it.
It's got the trailer on the website, though, isn't it?
Yeah, trailer's on the website. Yeah, so you can see what it's about, and and also going to have a look at our previous film, Plugged In. That's about the toxicity of social media. That was done with a guy called Richard Grannon, and that's about how social media is conditioning us all to behave in a certain way, and that will give you a bit more insight into how social media works. That was a really important film for us, and we're also making a film with a lady called Maggie Oliver, who was the lady that went against the Great Manchester Police to get justice for the young girls that are being groomed in Rochdale. So we're trying to do these films, but these films are hard to make because these are not films that BBC or ITV or Channel 4 or HBO would want to put out because their agendas. And I thank you guys for having me on, because this really helps a lot.
Well, let us know when the film's out and send us the link, and obviously we'll plug it to the best that we can and stick it on the website and stuff like that. So get as many people to it as possible, and we'll talk again like nearer the time, or maybe just after the film's come out, see what the reception's been like from people. Yeah, that would be lovely. Thank you, and nice to meet you, Jamie, as well. It's the first time we chatted.
Yeah, you too.
Magic. Cheers, Rich. That was Rich, filmmaker of Extreme Danger, Extreme Hypnosis. As you've just heard, we'll get links to that and stuff, and we'll get it up on the website as soon as we've got it. I've been Gareth. You've been
Jamie.
And this has been the Non-Binary Elephant podcast, sponsored as always by Miles Franklin, protecting your family's financial future from corporate greed and government corruption. As I said earlier, the web address is in the description below, and we'll see you next week. Take care. Bye.